Hi everyone, this is Heather Lottinen from the Flourish.Academy. You know what time it is. It's our weekly Q&A. You have questions? I hope that I have some answers. Hey, and if you missed the most recent episodes over on the Flourish.Academy page, you definitely want to check those out. I was talking about customer service related to the loss of the diamond in my engagement ring at Target. And then I did another video and someone said, oh look, you have your engagement ring back, and no, I don't. This is actually a backup ring. Hey Brittany, hello. This is a backup ring. This backup ring was approximately $18 to $22 at Charming Charlie. I just didn't want to go without a ring, so I'm wearing a ring that is not real. I didn't get my ring fixed yet, and if you have no clue what I'm talking about, then definitely go check out, I think it was episode 215 on customer service. First question is from Nicole, and she writes, how do you size a picture in Lightroom so that a client can't print above 5x7 without losing quality? Okay, you can definitely size down your photos to give them a lower quality photo so that they're not able to print beyond 5x7. But hold on, I have news for you, Nicole. They're going to. So if you give them files, I know this is a big thing, I have seen it. It was really popular several years ago. People were saying, I'm gonna give customers files that they can print up to 5x7 or 8x10. And then what they found out is they were still getting prints, they were just using a crappy file, which means the crappy file in the larger print looked really, really bad. Do you want your work to look really bad? I do not. Therefore, I would not recommend this methodology with clients. To me, it's either the high resolution files are included or there's a price and they purchase them, or they are not. I would not mess around with resizing files so that they have different versions of the files. I think it's a workflow headache, and I think you're asking for trouble in terms of printing, and your work is going to look terrible. I remember clearly when I photographed Kelly Fry with baby Bennett, and many of you know that story, and I went to her house the next time and she had these prints and frames from my blog because it had my name on the bottom of them, and I was like, babe, I will give you the files. Please print them appropriately. So that's just not a recommendation I would go for. Again, either you include that in your package, the high resolution files for print, or you do not, or you sell them, or whatever you do. This is just not my preferred methodology. Can you downsize an image to make the quality not as good so it won't print? Absolutely, but they're still going to do it. So if you want to talk more about that, Nicole, and if you happen to jump on here, please post a comment or a question below, and I'd be happy to address it. That's just my opinion on the topic. Marie, the gorgeous Marie, she writes, when you don't have a studio, what are some good ways to stay busy through the winter months? Fantastic question, especially because A, I don't have a studio, and B, I'm an on-location wedding photographer. Well, and I do portraits also. So there are a couple things you could do. Number one, I loved the off season. When I was photographing about 30 weddings a year, I would use that time to plan and retool and look at my systems and processes and take a little downtime, get some education. I really, really enjoy that. But if you're specifically talking about what can you do to earn money, well then that's a different story. You could certainly do lifestyle sessions where you go into people's homes and take photos, document them, whatever that looks like to you. And that doesn't have to be just for children or families. That could be for couples. It could be for anything. People typically like to have their photos done inside of their home because it's comfortable and it feels good. So I would recommend doing that. I would recommend looking into opportunities where you can volunteer and serve the community. You know, it's much easier to do those sort of things during your off season than it is in October, is it not? So maybe that's a good time to look at that kind of thing. I love like business planning season. To me, that's what that is. So what you can do, and if you're new, you're thinking, or at least I was thinking, okay, that's great, but I need to earn money. Well, okay, that first couple of years, yes, you're gonna try to find sessions. You can still do really pretty outdoor snowy sessions if we get a really pretty snowfall, things like that. Again, we have the in-home lifestyle sessions. But then as you mature in your business, what you'll find is that you're stacking these sessions in the fall, right? Everybody's really busy in the fall. You have all of these sessions, and then it becomes a matter of prioritizing your spending, saving money so that you can last through the winter and you're not as worried. So the way I compensated for that when I was shooting all of those weddings was when I was first starting out, my prices were inexpensive. There was a retainer in order to book me, reserve your date, and then the remainder was due 6 months prior. So let's say, for instance, early on I was charging $1,200. So they would pay $600 in order to retain my services, and then $600 6 months prior. Well, that was great, but let's take a June wedding. I'm getting paid, say they book me a year ahead of time, I'm getting that $600 then, and then $600 in December or January, 6 months ahead of time, which was great. It was working, but I thought, I think I want to spread that out a little bit more. As I raised my prices, I divided that into 3 payments. So now where I'm at, I take $1,000 in order to retain my services. Half of the remainder is due 6 months prior, and the other half is due 1 month prior. And so what that did was stagger my income. And in January, I was getting payments for June, in February, for July, and so on. And it just kind of evened out my income. So that's for you wedding photographers out there. I would really recommend that payment schedule. Now for portrait photographers, it's not really the same thing. But what you can do is make sure you're understanding your income during the busy season and then saving money and putting that aside for the off season, because then you can really focus on your business planning and maybe attending workshops or conferences or something to work on your business instead of in your business. We all know that August through November, December, you're really working in your business. You're shooting, you're editing, you're delivering, and it's crazy, which is great. So you can't really do any, what I would call heavy lifting, where you're thinking about bigger picture items for your business. So stash that money, and then in the off season, do some planning. Okay, if you're not there yet, again, what you can do are in-home lifestyle sessions or look for opportunities in your community so you can get involved and get your name out there. I hope that helps. Alicia asks, if volunteering for a nonprofit to take photographs, what a perfect segue, thank you. How would you handle contracts and marketing yourself? I have had 2 nonprofits reach out to me this week. Well, that's pretty amazing. I don't really have a huge client base, but I think this would be a good way to get out and meet new people. Absolutely agree. It also will help me get out of my comfort zone and let my creativity grow. Oh, that's great. Oh, Marie says thank you. You're welcome. Carrie says, changing my payment plan to 3 payments after we spoke has changed things dramatically for me. Good. I'm so happy about that. Okay, so Alicia's question is about volunteering for nonprofits. How would you handle contracts and marketing yourself? Well, number one, I would definitely have a contract. So they don't always know what they're asking for, what to expect, and you need to sort of set that in motion, but also be very clear about what you will deliver and what that looks like and what you expect in return in terms of marketing. So there are some nonprofits that you will volunteer for, say you're at a specific event. So they might have you set up a little area where you can stand and you can have your photos, like a little booth, or something scaled down where you can hand out business cards or something like that. I would have all of this in writing. So if it's that type of event, I would make sure that you know what you want and what the deliverable looks like. So for instance, in that contract, you might say this group can, expect to receive their images 2 to 3 weeks from the session. You can use these images in this way, XYZ. You can use these images online, you can use them in print, but you have to give credit to the photographer. I would absolutely recommend putting that in your contract because they're gonna use those images everywhere. You want your name attached to it so that people can see your name, brand awareness. This is pretty important. This goes into, taking this a little bit on a tangent, but this is for also people who do things in print. So for magazines or whatever, you want your name in there, right? So they know that. Okay, the first time I was contacted by Modern Bride to get one of my images in that magazine, I was so excited. That was my first national publication. They were doing this article on the trend of ballpark weddings. This was in probably 2005 or 6. And they contacted me because I'd recently done a wedding at PNC Park, which is really beautiful for weddings, surprisingly, because I wouldn't have thought that, but it's really nice. So they contacted me and asked me if they could use some photos. I said, absolutely. The only requirement I have is that you put photo credit www.weddingsbyheather.com. I did not put my name, I put my website. And that's so when somebody saw it, if they were interested, they could easily find me. See, if you just put your business name, what you're asking people to do is look you up by doing a Google search, which could potentially yield the wrong results. But even so, you're asking them to take an extra step. I want to eliminate, remove any barriers or any questions. Like if they see your name, okay, do I have to Google this person? How can I find them? I want to eliminate that. So anytime anyone used my photos, I always said, if you just put weddingsbyheather.com, I would be so grateful. Okay, so Modern Bride, they did it. I wish I had that. It's downstairs in the basement. I saved it. So I get the magazine in the mail. I'm so excited. I'm flipping through. I find this article. They have my photo. It's little bitty, but whatever, no matter. Okay, so I'm looking at it and I'm like, where's my name? I don't see it anywhere. Oh dear. Scoured everything, looking, and then I took the magazine and I like peeled it apart, and in the spine, in about 6-point font, sideways, it said, image credit, weddingsbyheather.com. Bummer. Not awesome, but they did it. They gave me credit. So maybe I could rephrase that and say, I want prominent credit? I don't know. Oh, that's a crazy story. Okay, so for the nonprofits or volunteer organizations, I would just make it very clear, hey, you guys can use these images for anything you'd like. If you would please just give me credit, that would be ideal. So I would have that in writing, what to expect, what they expect from you. Okay, but one other thing you had said was, you had to reach out to you this week, which is amazing. They came to you. But I don't sit around and wait for that. Because you could be waiting a very long time, sitting behind your computer hoping somebody contacts you. If they do, great, but you have to get a little bit more aggressive. Oh, hey, Taryn. My friend Taryn says, yep, she's had that happen too. Ooh, bummer, there goes an opportunity, right? So you have to get out and meet people purposefully with intent. So I would sit down and write out maybe some organizations that you can think of that are near and dear to your heart, organizations that you love, and reach out to them directly and say, hey, you have anything coming up you need photographed? There you go. Always looking for photographers. They would love if you would do the thinking for them and say, hey, I'm here. I'd love to do that. So I did a video, a live video. I can look it up. I don't remember the episode number, but the title is about an aggressive goat. You need to watch that video. It's really funny because you know who gets fed? The aggressive goat, and that goat eats whatever it wants. It's a funny story. So definitely check that out. But I would have a contract. That was your question. I would definitely have a contract. Marketing yourself depends on if you're speaking about marketing yourself directly to nonprofits or if you're speaking about marketing yourself to people who are involved at an event with that nonprofit. So we can talk about that offline, Alicia. I hope that that helps. Okay, Bethany says, I want to take sharper photos. Me too. That is everyone's goal, is it not? I'm just starting out and I use a Canon Rebel T6 with a 15mm for my portraits. All right, that's good. I use Photoshop Elements for editing. How can I achieve sharp images? All right, big topic. We've talked about this several times. I'm gonna really simplify this. So if you're watching this not live on YouTube, please note, I'm simplifying it. So you don't need to leave a comment about how there's more to it. I know there's more to it. Essentially, the faster the shutter speed, the sharper the image if you hit the focus. Now there are times when we miss a focus, that's something totally different. Sharp images come from fast shutter speeds at a high level. You have to have a decent camera, you have to have a decent lens. The sharper images tend to come from higher quality cameras and lenses. Yes, there is a quality difference, so that is a factor for sure. Your images out of a Canon Rebel T6 are not going to be the same as they are out of a 5D Mark IV, even with the same lens. So camera matters. Can you get sharp images? Of course you can, no matter what your camera or lens combination, but there is a different level of sharpness from, say, a good quality lens to maybe a less expensive kit lens, something like that. So your gear does matter. Yes, you can get sharp photos out of anything, but gear does matter. The faster the shutter speed, the sharper the image. When you shoot at slower shutter speeds with higher ISOs, which I do all the time because I'm fearless and it does not scare me, your images will not appear as sharp. Sometimes it's a very slight motion blur, very slight, which just makes it look a little bit soft, but actually it's motion blur. And then also higher ISOs let more light into the sensor, which means more noise, which lends itself a little bit more to a softer image, not quite as sharp. So I would say starting out, the number one thing you want to do is make sure that you have a fast enough shutter speed to freeze motion. Keeping in mind, everyone has a different threshold, so some people are a little bit shakier than others. Also depends on whether your subject is still or in motion. I find that when I'm at an event, like a wedding, and I'm really excited and things are moving really quickly, I sometimes need to tell myself to take a breath and slow down, because I notice at slower shutter speeds, I'll be a little bit shakier. Deep breath, take a photo, pay attention to your shutter speed. I hope that helps. Lori says, do you have any idea, even a ballpark idea, when Profoto A1 will arrive in USA? Do you have your finished photos of the A1 posted anywhere, not videos, but actually posted photos? Hey, looky here. Profoto A1. Oh, guess what? Robbie answered this question because I didn't know the answer to that. They are shipping today or Monday. And if you've placed a pre-order with someone like YM Camera, and I hope that you did, then you need to just sit tight and be patient. Because what happens when these things flood the market is that people are like, where's my copy? I want mine, I want mine. They will then cancel an order with one store and try to order it from another place. That is a bad move when it comes to new gear, always. Because these guys put you in an order. So if you pre-ordered from one camera store and you're like up here on the list, you cancel that order and you go order from another camera store, or worse, B&H, you get way down here on the list. So if you have an order with YM, hang tight. They will ship them to you. They're coming very soon. You will love them. Yes. And and your second part of your question was, do you have finished photos, not video? I do have finished photos, Lori. I'm sorry. They're actually in a video. And I posted it on this question. I have a video. It's called the Profoto A1, my first photo shoot. And I have behind the scenes video footage as well as the still images shot without the light, with the light, and with the edit in that video. So you'll definitely want to check that out. I also photographed 2 entire weddings, 3? At least 2 entire weddings with the Profoto A1. I do need to share some of those images. I will get on that. Thank you. Sonia asks, do you ever use Magmod modifiers? Sonia, welcome. You must be new around here because I've done a lot of videos on the Magmod. Love them. If you go over to the Flourish Academy page, there are several episodes. Do I have the Magmod? Why, yes, I do. I love this mag sphere. I love it. I have this on my SB900, and I have these modifiers, which I love. So here's the grid. I have the gel inside of there. You'll see that. I think that's the CTO 1/4. Yep, CTO 1/4, color temperature orange, gel mounted in there. And there's the grid. I love, love Magmod. I love them. So interesting, because I picked up this Magmod gear, I don't know when I did those videos. We'd have to look, a couple of months ago. And I shot a couple of weddings with the mag sphere on my SB900 and absolutely loved it, and I'll tell you why. Besides the fact that it softens the light, which is obviously the point of something like the mag sphere. Besides that, I found that I liked my photos better when I am both bouncing this way and bouncing this way. So if I turn my camera, if I have my camera in landscape or portrait, I found that I really like the way the light looks with the Magmod modifier on it versus without it. You can tend to get some weird shadows when you go portrait with a flash and you're bouncing it. I did not get those weird shadows. I also used it a couple of times, believe it or not, I know it's surprising, straight on, which I would never do with just the bare flash. I would never do that. So I love this. Leanne and I use these a lot at our off-camera flash workshops this past summer. We let people play with them. Everybody loved them. I know a lot of people were purchasing them. Love it. But what I was referring to a moment ago about something interesting happened. I was using these all the time. Then I got a hold of the Profoto A1. and I haven't touched my flashes since. Isn't that interesting? I'm not saying I'm not going to ever use my flashes again. Of course I am, but I haven't used them lately. And as a result, I have my Magmod, I have my flash, it's great. I can use it, that's an option in my toolkit for sure. But I've been using the A1 exclusively. Yes, I have. I'm sorry, Becky, you just asked a question and I missed it. Oh, yeah, I did. She says, please say you love the Profoto A1. Why? Did you place a pre-order? I do love that light. I haven't touched my flashes since. So if you have a flash and you wish to modify it, do I recommend the Magmod? 100%. I love Magmod. Brilliant. I don't know why someone didn't invent it sooner. We could have used this 10 years ago. Phenomenal. If you have a flash and you want to modify it, yes. If you don't have a flash and you're thinking about getting a light and you're leaning towards this A1, I don't know that a Magmod would be necessary because the Magmod isn't going to fit on the A1. The A1 is circular and the Magmod is rectangular, so it wouldn't work. I don't know. I mean, that depends on your budget and where you're headed and what your needs are, obviously. Okay, I have a few more questions I'm going to grab from the page because I've been really busy lately and I haven't had time to be in the group as much to answer questions, although I see you guys have it covered. But I would like to address a few of these. In the meantime, if you have any additional questions, please comment below. Okay, the next one was from my friend Kayla. She said, business question. I'm adding another branch to my business that will have another name. I'll file for a fictitious name under my current business. The what? Question mark. Take that to the bank and update them so I can do business as either name? Question mark. And for those who have done this, taxes are still under the main entity, right? Still just that same EIN info. Heather, Charlene, I think that you guys may know. And Marie commented and she said, file for a DBA, same EIN, separate books. Okay, definitely, she's right. File for a DBA. That's called doing business as. I have several DBAs underneath of my LLC. So my LLC is Heather Lockton in Photography. I also have doing business as Weddings by Heather and Life by Heather, and I am adding the Flourish Academy. Those are all DBAs sitting under that main entity. Yes, same EIN. The only thing different, Marie, is I don't do separate books. All of my books are combined. I have one QuickBooks file and they're all together, as are my taxes. So the reason I did it, and yes, I took this information to the bank and went to the bank with all of this info and I said to them, I want to make sure that if somebody writes me a check to Heather Lottinen Photography LLC, Weddings by Heather, or Life by Heather at the time, and I'm adding the Flourish Academy, I want to know that I can cash that check. I don't need any trouble when it comes to cashing checks. And they said, absolutely. So I show them the paperwork and it's fine. I've had people, they've gotten themselves into some really tight binds because they haven't done this. Let me give you an example. I have a friend who has a business name and then obviously her personal name. And one time she had a client write her a check out to her business name and she couldn't cash that because she didn't have that with her bank. She didn't have a business bank account set up appropriately. So she had to go back to the client and ask for another check. Never. Never in a million years would I want to do that. The number one rule is to make it easy for people to give you money. If you make it difficult, you're just, okay, would a person understand and write you a new check? I would say 9 times out of 10, yes, but guess what? This client was not happy. Not happy. Like, lost their cool. They didn't want to write her a new check. And what kind of business was this? I mean, they got really kind of mean with her. And it was very ugly before it all got settled. So I wouldn't want to do that. Even if the person were gracious and wrote me a new check, I never want to bother a client with something like that. When somebody comes to me and they say, can I pay you with, I don't care what they say next. The answer is always yes. Yes, you can. Cash, credit card, cash, check out to this person, that person, PayPal, whatever, Stripe. However you want to give me money, I graciously accept. So I would really take this pretty seriously about how you run your business. Be careful Be careful. And if you don't have a business and it's just your name, or maybe you have a business name and you're new and you're operating as a sole proprietor and you don't have this set up yet and it scares you and you don't know what to do, then my recommendation is to communicate very, very clearly to your clients ahead of time that all checks need to be written out to your name. Make it very clear, put it everywhere so that you don't have that type of incident. That is my advice. Okay, there was something else. There was another question. I really wanted to address. Okay, Bethany. She says, I use a 55mm for most of my portrait sessions. Should I get, do they make a 55 or is that a 50? Does anybody know? I learned the other day that they make a lens, a focal length I didn't know about, so it's possible. Should I get a hood attachment for it? If so, what type? I see a couple different styles out there. I'm new to this and I'm not sure that it would help on sunny days. Thoughts and suggestions would be greatly appreciated. Okay, lens hood. Hang on. I have my Nikon 70-200 here with its lens hood on. What is the purpose of a lens hood? I get this question often. The purpose of a lens hood is to block unwanted light from coming across the lens, creating flare or artifacts that you do not wish to have on your image. That's why they were invented. Lens hoods were invented to block light. A lot of people, I will hear them say, well, lens hoods are to protect your lens. Side benefit, unintended consequence. Yes, it does protect your lens if you're rough on your gear and you drop it maybe, it could break the hood instead of lens. Absolutely, it does protect the lens, but that's secondary. The primary focus is for its job is to make sure that unwanted light does not come across your lens and create flare. Okay, it's 2017. Some people like flare in their images, so they remove their lens hoods and they purposefully shoot their lens like this and they angle it such the light comes across it and they get lens flare on purpose. There are times when I want lens flare in my images, absolutely, I think it's very pretty, but in a session, only a few of them, not the entire session. Predominantly, I want to have my lens hood on. Problem is I lose them sometimes. I take them off, I set them down, and I forget where they're at. Now, in terms of what style, I don't know. It's possible. I just don't know. I didn't realize they created different styles of lens hoods. My understanding is that each lens hood is made for the specific size of your lens because lens sizes, the front elements, are different sizes. So in this case, this lens hood is the HB48 for this particular lens, which is 77mm, is the size of this, 77mm. So you buy the 77mm lens hood so that it fits and it clicks on appropriately. So you have to buy the right size for the lens. This is really important because you'll see lens hoods that have what's called this tulip shape, because it looks like a tulip, and that's so that when you are zoomed in or out, you don't get any unwanted black circles or lines on the outside of your frame. Sometimes if you're shooting a wide angle lens and if you're using the wrong lens hood, you'll see like a vignette from the lens hood. It'll be pretty dark black and you'll like, what is that? Is there something wrong with my camera? No, that's your lens hood. Another problem I have with lens hoods is sometimes I will put one on, I'll be in a hurry, I'll put this one on, I'll turn it, I'll start shooting, and I'll notice the black vignetting, and I'll think, what the heck? This is the right one. You have to lock it into place. Did you hear it? You have to lock it into place. If you don't, it's not positioned correctly. So lens hoods are made for specific lenses. Those are the ones that you want to get. If there are different styles, I mean, there's the tulip shape and then there's a solid one, but my understanding is that's based on the focal length of the lens, that it's not optional. You know, like I can pick this one over another one, at least my limited knowledge. That's what I'm looking at. Okay, I'm gonna scan these one last time. Any last minute questions, ask them below. I think that was it. No, there might have been another one. Oh, Amber asked this question. It's very popular, common, I should say. She said, I just upgraded to the Creative Cloud and the Canon 5D Mark IV. Fun. I always shoot raw. Absolutely. When loading in Lightroom, everything looks great. Then the image does more loading and goes flat and dull. What? Why? How do I stop this? I found some info in a form. Is it right? Any experience, anyone? This is annoying. Amber, you asked, I found some info in a form. Is it right? What's the info you found? I don't know if it's right. Okay, what's happening is that when you shoot RAW, RAW is actually not the image itself. RAW is just data. And so what happens is Lightroom, and your camera, by the way, applies some type of processing to show you an image. So Lightroom is applying that processing for the preview image differently than your camera. Your camera has one way of doing it, because inside of that computer machine that you hold, there's actually processing software. So it shows you a JPEG preview of that image. Therefore, you have RAW over here, RAW file. And then you have this JPEG preview information. Canon marries it one way, Lightroom marries it a different way, which is why that changes when you go inside of Lightroom. So what's happening is you like the way Canon did it, and you're not liking the way Adobe does it. Can you fix it? Absolutely. I posted a link in that question to a video that I did, and the title of the video says, "Don't let Lightroom change your photos." And what you can do is in camera calibration, you can assign it a profile. Ideally, what you're assigning is the profile that matches the way you like it to look based on coming out of the camera or when it first appears in Lightroom. You might have to do some tweaking. So just selecting that profile, say Canon 5D Mark IV and neutral versus vivid or whatever in Lightroom, just setting that may not cut it completely. You might have to do a few tweaks, but then what you can do is save that as a preset and apply that preset upon import. Therefore, when you're importing your photos, this preset is applied the way that you like it, and when your preview generates in Lightroom, nothing changes. It looks the same when it came in as to when you can start working on it. So not a problem, we can fix it. Hopefully you found that helpful. Hey, you guys, have a great weekend. I hope to see you next week at the party. Thanks.